There's a new Mortal Kombat movie in theaters. Is it a flawless victory or a gory fatality? Let's find out.
You've seen it before, haven't you?
Once more unto the bridge, dear friends.
Again and again until we're both dead.
There's only like 12 stories. They change around little details, but all pretty much the same.
Deja vu. Something very familiar about it.
Hello, welcome to You've Seen It Before, Movie Reviews Connections in Mind. Mortal Kombat 2 is the sequel to 2021's Mortal Kombat. It is once again directed by Simon McQuoid and brings back many of the fighters that we saw in the previous movie alongside Carl Urban as Johnny Cage, a washed-up actor slash martial artist who is drafted into Mortal Kombat when the fate of Earthrealm is at stake, and Outworld is gunning for their 10th Mortal Kombat victory. It is up to our heroes to turn the tide. Now, this video review will contain spoilers of Mortal Kombat 2. I'll be doing my spoiler-free thoughts first and foremost, though, but just so you know, there will be spoilers later on in this review. So, first things first, let's get into some spoiler-free talk on Mortal Kombat 2. Is this a good Mortal Kombat movie? Is this a good movie in general? Is this worth seeing in a theater? I would say if you saw the previous Mortal Kombat movie or enjoyed the Mortal Kombat movies from the 90s and or enjoyed the games, I think there's something for you to enjoy in here. If you're looking for just, dumb action movie fun, there is enough to be had in this to make it an enjoyable time, and especially one if you are going to see it in a theater with a bunch of like-minded people. It's a fun time. I'm not there was a family that was sitting a couple rows behind me. They brought I think it was, their son was probably like 7 or 8. I think that was probably a little too young to be going to this kind of movie, but, they do them, I guess. But, I'm not, going to judge your parenting on that front. But I think if you enjoyed Mortal Kombat, you're going to find enough things to enjoy in this one. Me, personally, I enjoyed the previous Mortal Kombat movie enough. It had good moments. I think some of the character work was kind of bland and generic, but aside from Kano. But then again, you're not here for deep character arcs and motivations. You're here to see the fighting and the fatalities, the gore factor of it. And the previous movie had that, and this movie definitely has that for you. So you're going to get that in spades. But what about that character stuff? Is it any better from the previous movie? Well, not really. I mean, there's really 2 arcs going on. Only 2 characters, I should say, get character arcs in this movie. One is Carl Urban as Johnny Cage. He goes through an arc, going from the reluctant, I didn't sign up for this kind of thing until, he's eventually going to reform and become the hero that we all know he's going to be in that. And the other one is Katana. She's the princess of Outworld, and she has a character arc alongside here. And I really wish this movie, it kind of set up a little bit. There's some interaction between Katana and Johnny Cage, and there's some potential there, and I wish that this movie did a little bit more with that than it did, because I think their stuff is some of the best, the best character stuff in the movie. The other good stuff in here is, I will say, this movie does what a typical video game movie or a superhero movie is. Characters that died in the previous movie, they're not going to stay dead. They're going to come back somehow. And surprise, surprise, characters that die in the previous movie do come back. And I won't say who right now, but you can probably take a wild guess as to who I'm referring to if you've seen the previous Mortal Kombat. And their returns, hit or miss, I think, but I'm not going to say that they did not do anything for me on that. I think, especially the one character in particular had some good moments. But overall, the story of this, the contrivance, I should say, how we get to Mortal Kombat, because really the story is all about, how do we get, fighter A and fighter B in an arena and see them duke it out? How many different scenarios can we do to do that? And, as far as that goes, I think it works fine as a framing device. And really where this movie kind of loses me a little bit is when it goes away from that near the end where, the quote unquote main story takes place and, or takes center stage. And it really doesn't do anything bad per se, but I think the weakest elements of this movie surround that main story. And, but then again, there's one fight in particular that I think is the best one in the movie that does kick off that main story. So, like I said, this is a mixed bag. I think pacing-wise, if you're looking for only the fights, and there's going to be stuff in between, here's a fight, here's a couple fight, and then there's stuff in between where you can, some dialogue, some weak character moments, and then, all right, there's another fight, there's another fight. The stuff in between isn't unbearable. I think there's enough time in between them, or the length, that filler material between fights is not too long, but I think if you're striving just for the fights, you might get slightly, depending on your tolerances, especially near the middle, you might get a little impatient, but I think there's just enough dumb fun surrounding those fights to make this just worth it enough if you're a fan of Mortal Kombat. So if I was going to give this movie a letter grade, I would say this grades as a B- as far as I'm concerned. And if I was going to weigh Mortal Kombat 2 on the scale of unoriginality, I would say this weighs in at less than original. You've seen it before, but it could be worse. And what do I mean by that? Well, let me dive into that more by going into our spoiler talk, where we dive into some plot developments and character arcs that may seem familiar to you and where you may have seen them before. So, character-wise, I find it kind of interesting that, this second movie is sort of the better version of Mortal Kombat Annihilation, where, once again, the main bad is Shao Kahn. And we also have, the Katana, we have Sindel, and Jade. We have these characters that were featured more prominently, I guess, in Mortal Kombat Annihilation, and that movie was not particularly great. But they're doing better in this movie than they did in that one. Although I will say, a bit of a missed opportunity. There's enough tongue-in-cheek references in this movie that they could have done a tongue-in-cheek reference. They could have slipped in the so bad it's good line from Mortal Kombat Annihilation, where Sindel goes, "Too bad you will die." It's like, they could have slipped that in somehow, and, everyone, the fans would have gotten a laugh. I would have chuckled on that. I think that was a missed opportunity, but maybe that's just me. And then other elements on this, I was surprised that there's two different Pirates of the Caribbean parallels to be drawn here. One is with the Curse of the Black Pearl, where you have this artifact that Shao Kahn gets with Raiden's power that he binds to and makes him immortal. And the whole plot around, well, we have to destroy this artifact to make him mortal. And of course, the timing of that coincides right when the death strike with Katana, not quite a death strike, but a mortally wounding strike with her fan blades or whatever hits, and it's like, no, I'm mortal now. And it's like that, kind of like Curse of Black Pearl, when he drops the coin into the thing, and all of a sudden the pirates are mortal again. And then the second one would be with Dead Man's Chest, where the ending of this movie focuses on, well, now we've got we kidnapped this necromancer, and our friends who've been killed in Mortal Kombat, we've lost these champions, we're gonna get them back. That's gonna be the plot of the third movie. It's like, well, that's kind of like Dead Man's Chest, right? Barbossa comes back, and our pirate friends have to go to Davy Jones' locker to rescue Jack Sparrow. So, interesting parallels on that front. Me personally, I didn't really think we need to rescue Cole Young or Jax just because I don't think they had very much personality in this movie, and their losses. Once we find out they're dead, and it's like, oh, not an anguish cry from any of our characters. It's more of like a, oh man, they're dead. It's like, talk about underwhelming, deaths on that front. So even they're not all that broken up about it seems. But maybe that's just a script problem. And then finally, more of a shot, parallel than anything else. The fight between Kung Lao and Liu Kang in the arena with Liu Kang shooting his fire and Kung Lao doing his frisbee, his saw blade hat thing. At one point, Kung Lao's holding his hat up, and Liu Kang's firing his fire bolts, and that slow motion shot just very reminiscent of Captain America: Civil War. The shot with Captain America holding up his shield while Iron Man is blasting it with his repulsors or whatever, and I have a strong suspicion that was intentional on the filmmaker's part. It's a cool shot. I don't blame them, but I can't help but make the comparison on that front. Really, those are the main points of comparison. I'm sure there's others that I've missed or just didn't pick up on. Like I said, there's there were some cool things to hear. Like I said, Johnny Cage is probably the best character in this movie. Although bringing back Kano is, he was probably the best character in the first movie. So I'm glad that they brought him back, and the writing was pretty good with him. I will say though, you have Kano as the wisecracker, and then Johnny Cage, who's also kind of a wisecracker in a ways, and they kind of dilute the wisecracking energy between them, and I think that's kind of a shame. But then I'm not complaining too much. Like I said, their stuff was probably the best writing in the movie. Humor wise, plot wise, having Kano suddenly switch sides again is completely nonsensical as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I'm assuming he did just because they offended him, they don't like him or anything. And it's like, well, isn't this kind of what you were going to do before in the first movie when you betrayed them? He says, oh, I don't want to, you see what they're going to do to Earth? I don't want that. It's like, well, didn't you know that was going to happen in the first movie when you switched sides before to go to Outworld? It makes absolutely no sense. It's just very much a plot device turn, but then you get more Kano being awesome and being funny, so I can't complain too much. What did you think of Mortal Kombat 2? Did you like it? Did you not like it? What about my analysis? Do you agree, disagree? Did I miss something? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate whatever audience I can get. Be sure to look for my next movie review, which will be for The Mandalorian and Grogu, which comes out May 22nd, I believe. So look for that. And if you like this video or any other video on my channel, please give me a like, share, and especially a subscribe. I would very much appreciate it. Again, thank you so much for watching. But just remember, there is nothing new under the sun. And yes, you have seen it before.